Moraine, cut off from the source, actually has to work for a living now, and she's turned to LSD to cope. Wisdom is frustrated because she can't do it, and Professor Tech Support asks if she's tried pressing the reset button.
Try again.
I did try again.
Despite getting viciously murdered with a cursed dagger last season, the Ogier Loyal is looking alive and well without explanation, as are some of the guards that were also murdered. They meet Captain Crack Sparrow, aka Elias. Moving back to Moraine, Yankee Doodle is trying to sell her a pet rock, but she gets tricked into buying just the instruction manual and paying him to fuck off. Chipmunk Supreme finds Wisdom alone and attacks her with systemic racism, before telling Wisdom that she wants to train her to be the most strongest of women's ever. When she discovers that Wisdom had followed her, Chipmunk slaps her and calls her uppity. Elsewhere in town, Chipmunk goes to Wisdom's room and says, "Come on," before taking her to the fallopian arches of fate that will determine if she can join the Aes Sedai I Felt a Thigh sorority. In the next trial, Wisdom wakes up in the monkeypox ward where she does some interpretive dance thinking it will lift the victim's spirits. Wisdom is lost forever and for all intents and purposes dead, leaving Chipmunk particularly disappointed because she thought Wisdom was so articulate. A powerful Slay Queen picks Uno, the most evilest of white males from the crowd, to deep-throat the horn of social justice. Elsewhere in the tower, Chipmunk frees her boy toy Matt before heading to Mordor to destroy the One Ring for a second time, unaware that Gollum is right behind her. Rand and his high-class whore Celine get dressed up to make fun of a little person. Then he pays another visit to Logain to talk about touching the taint.
You've been suppressing it a long time.
I have.
The urge to touch it.
How do I stop it?
You can't.
Elsewhere, Ishamael touches Perrin's leg and says he must be hot with those pants on.
Show me, Perrin. I want to meet the monster.
Eventually, Captain Crack Sparrow swings into his carriage and frees Perrin, with help from his wolf brother friends. Rand plows Celine so hard that the roof catches fire. Wisdom, still trapped in her own little fantasy, finds herself in a peaceful village where she's made Lan a stay-at-home husband. We start off following Ishamael as he works his way through Lizzo's fat folds. Moraine breaks out some blunts and looks at a painting of her with a 10-year-old Emma Watson. Chipmunk finds Wisdom in this room and takes the opportunity to lecture her on what the sorority was like back when it was segregated. Rand is unwittingly with Lanfear at this very moment, and she's trying a new maneuver in the sack.
What's happening?
But then Moraine performs the bloodiest cock block in history before leaving with Rand. Captain Crack Sparrow is explaining to Perrin that this is his wolf pack now, and then asks Perrin, "Hey, how's your wife?" Ha 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 ha. So Perrin leaves. Chipmunk Supreme takes this time to explain to Wisdom that she's actually a Chipmunk supremacist, and she thinks Wisdom should join the Dark One. And then she has to clarify she's not saying that Wisdom should join the Dark One because of her skin color, but because she's so much smarter than Chipmunk assumed she was. Chipmunk emerges from the ways in front of Xerxes in her faraway land and asks if this is the dump, because she's got some straight trash to drop off. Perrin tries to keep his food down at lunch with this girl who keeps talking about giving Perrin her moisture. Cutting to Rand, Ishamael has snuck into his bed, and he's about to get super inclusive, but it's actually Lanfear. Phew! Xerxes brings the High Lord a gift, a captive Egwene who's even more insufferable now that she has cornrows, and they put that bitch on a leash. We begin with Egwene whining and yelping as she's dragged back home, not wanting her after-dinner walk to end. Egwene's owner lovingly pets her new bitch and takes her off the leash. Egwene is about to get her freedom when she has a super inconveniently timed seizure. Back at the White Tower, Chipmunk is with her rich husband when Lanfear shows up so the show can badmouth men. Xerxes, reduced to just a lowly, wealthy lord now, makes the ogre sing, and the nearby plant begins to grow so it can reach the ceiling and hang itself. She has another seizure and her owner wonders if she'll have to put her down. Then Egg thinks she hears a squirrel. Egwene hears a noise and freaks out, barking at it. Moraine tries to write a letter about how she got gonorrhea from a tractor, but she struggles with it. In this matriarchal society, the men bring the women sandwiches. Egg's owner says, "Egg, come," and they practice tricks.
Good.
But then Egg sets a tree on fire, so the owner kicks the dog. Bad dog. The Amerlin Seat herself comes into town for the Beyonce concert. When the SS come knocking, the Aes Sedai chooses to sacrifice herself, entrusting Wisdom with her last words and giving side-eye to the white bitch. The magical Mongols arrive with their dogs.
Who let the dogs out?
And the Aes Sedai and her warder are like,
It's going down.
so.
Let's get down to business.
Elsewhere, Egwene can't get over her hang-ups. Later, she howls at the wind, and her neighbor, a former blue Aes Sedai, is like, great, another night of this. We start off 20 years in the past, where a young lesbian Moiraine is infatuated with her interracial lesbian relationship, although she doesn't trust her scissor sister enough to even close her eyes when they kiss. Turns out this is the same far-off city where Wisdom and Prissy Pants are, who have already been here long enough to have ex-boyfriends they're hiding from. Meanwhile, Egwene and her owner are at puppy training school. Then she says everything this show is about.
We would have been so much better off if you were a girl.
The leader of this puppy training school, Michael Vick, is turning this into a dogfighting ring. But Egwene has major gas, impressing even the ogre miles away. Ishamael is forcing Matt to watch him woodcarving while he talks about keeping his pencil sharp.
Is this a sex thing?
Matt chokes down the tea left by Ishamael, which was obviously spiked with roofies. Moraine's nephew orders his mom to go get the meatloaf.
Hey, Mom! The meatloaf!
While we learn that he's a dark friend, and Chipmunk tells him to get rid of Moiraine and his mom, but it turns out Mom wasn't getting the meatloaf. Ishamael is about to cash in on his roofie investment when Matt wakes up. Back in the desert, this Aiel is pretending that she's Zendaya and that this is Dune 2, and the show thinks that by making it so dark so as to be hardly visible, the audience might think it's Dune 2 2. Egg's owner is like, shake, Egwene, shake! But Egg ends up being a bad girl when she tells her owner that she will kill her. Moraine's nephew, belly not full of meatloaf, comes to kill his mother for this betrayal, but she pulls the old switcheroo and locks him in a cell. The Amyrlin seat finally makes it to the Beyonce concert with her entourage, and everyone's going crazy. But it starts to rain, so she has to leave. When all of a sudden Lanfear strolls in and the Amyrlin seat is like, I got this. Then Lanfear laughs at her so hard she gets blown back on her ass. Despite just getting magically molested by her, Moiraine remembers her nice interracial lesbian relationship with Suan, and the episode comes to an end. Back in the present day, we catch up with the Lanfear Morand crew traversing the ways when Lanfear decides Moiraine and Lan have earned a relaxing tropical vacation at Sandals, Jamaica. Ishamael finds Lanfear in his bed and he's like,
Nice.
Over in Tomenhead, the White Cloak Inquisitors charge into town, excited for the annual Halloween Monster Bash Parade. Wisdom is trying on her finished Halloween costume.
How do I look? It's good.
In Sandals, Jamaica, Lan and Moiraine are drinking pina coladas and taking long walks on the beach as they repair their relationship, at least physically.
Let me back in.
Perrin finds Loyal and the other two guys who probably have names, and amazingly, they're carrying the Horn of Prophecy, which they snagged off-screen, just so they can continue to point at this horn saying, see, book fans? We didn't forget it. Egwene thinks the Inquisitors' costumes are culturally appropriated, so she attacks them with the strength of two women. The Great Lord guy and his retinue do an interpretive dance for Rand, but Rand doesn't really like it, and he openly shows his disapproval. On the other side of town, Beardy sacrifices himself to buy them time. But two things here. We already mourned this guy when he died in Season 1, and like most sacrifices in shows and movies, the people he's buying time for just sit and watch him die, so it's a totally meaningless death in the end. He even dies with this look on his face like, did they really just sit there and watch me? Elsewhere, Xerxes asks Ishamael,
Where have you been?
and he's like nowhere as he dusts cocaine off his hands. Then she calls him Buttlord.
But Lord,
Their new friend decides to join the war victim zombie trend, and Prissy Pants is no longer an adventurer after she takes an arrow to the knee. But Ponytail gets angry that everyone copied his costume and he's out for blood. She sits like a good girl once more for old time's sake, and Rand arrives and says, oh great, it's you. I thought I heard whining up here. Matt can't find Rand even though the Monster Bash is starting right now, so he blows the horn to assemble his crew, and they come prepared, with one dressed as Aquaman, one as Legolas, and someone as Mulan, just a great range of costumes. Ishamael asks Rand if he'll join his Legion of Taint. but he admits the name is a work in progress. And with all his power and Ishamael trying to kill him and his friends and enslave the world, Rand stabs Ishamael in slow motion.